Here we go again.
No, not again.
You've been fooled.
How long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the bridge.
Again, until we're both dead.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews with connections in mind. The Meg has splashed its way into theaters and is directed by John Turteltaub and stars Jason Statham as a deep-sea rescue diver who is brought into a marine research station off the coast of China to save a group of scientists who were exploring the bottom of the ocean when they encountered a living fossil, a megalodon, a very large shark who was thought to be extinct for millions of years. And during this rescue, a megalodon is unleashed upon the modern world and this research station, and it is up to Jason Statham and this crew to stop this prehistoric threat from wreaking havoc on the coast of China and the rest of the world. Now, this video review will contain spoilers of The Meg as well as certain other films. There will be a full list in the description below, and if you have not seen The Meg yet or any of the films listed below and want to wait until you have, stop the video at this point and come back later. But with these things in mind, though, let's begin. So with any giant shark film that comes out post-Jaws, it is only natural to compare it to Jaws, and indeed there are some homages to Jaws in this film, and I'm calling them homages rather than blatant rip-offs because these are subtle enough to warrant being just homages to them rather than just stealing from Jaws and calling it its own. However, there are instances in The Meg that you'll recognize from 1975's Jaws. For instance, when the Meg attacks the beach in the bay, you'll notice that his fin gets caught on an anchor of a raft in the beach, and as he swims away, he pulls this raft along, and he snags two more rafts. And we see him pulling three rafts along the surface of the water. This is somewhat reminiscent of when Bruce the Shark is stuck by Quint and the Orca crew with three barrels, and he's able to swim away with three barrels on him. Another instance of a Jaws homage is when the scientists decide to kill the Meg. They use a poison darts on a stick, and they put one of our scientist characters in a shark cage, and basically waiting for the shark to come in so they can stab the shark with the poison, similar to what Hooper's plan was with his shark cage in Jaws. Finally, there's an instant at the very end of the film when Jason Statham succeeds in killing the second Meg. We see a shot of the Meg falling into the water, and the way it's composed and shot, it is reminiscent of the post-explosion shark shot in Jaws after Brody detonates the air tank in Bruce's mouth. The shark explodes, and we see the lifeless corpse of the shark floating down, sinking into the water, and that's a homage there. Moving away from Jaws, there is another giant monster film that the Meg kind of borrows from, in a scene in which the Meg is dragging the shark cage across out away from the ship where all the scientists are. He reaches the end of the cable, and the Meg is actually strong enough to pull the boat backwards and is putting massive strain on the cable itself, and the crane itself is actually bending downwards and eventually detaches from the ship itself. This is reminiscent of a scene in the 1998 version of Godzilla with Matthew Broderick, in which Godzilla pulls the net, a trawler net full of fish, and he pulls it so hard that the three trawler ships are being pulled backwards and down under the water. So an interesting homage as well. In fact, this whole idea of a living fossil from an isolated environment being brought into a modern day world and wreaking havoc, like the Meg, is entirely reminiscent of the third act of The Lost World, Jurassic Park, in which the T-Rex is brought from Isla Sorna, an isolated environment, to San Diego, and he gets loose and wreaks havoc, eats a bunch of people, and our heroes have to contain him and stop him. So, an interesting comparison as well. Now, with all this being said, of course, is the Meg worth your time in the theaters? I would say yes it is, but you have to set your expectations properly. If you haven't already seen it, of course, you'll know that even going into this film, if you've seen the trailers, you know it's a giant shark film, and we live in a world where shark films can go one of two directions. They could either be the next Jaws, or they can go the Sharknado route, where it's just utterly ridiculous and campy to everything. This film kind of goes down the middle, and it doesn't really. It dips its toes in both realms, but it never really goes one way or another to really call it anything other than just average. It is a little too it takes itself seriously, it presents things seriously, but it's not serious enough to call it the next Jaws. And there's not. Jason Statham has actually gone on record to say that he thought there was going to be more blood and gore with this film, which there really didn't end up being in this film. So it doesn't go quite enough in that direction to call it the next Jaws. And there is a lot of good humor associated with this, and there are silly moments, but it doesn't go far enough in the other direction to call it a Sharknado level campy fun film. And overall, it is just average, but I will say it is probably, of the two giant monsters eat people films, the other being Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I would say The Meg is definitely more fun than Jurassic World. And it is a little more coherent in plot department. So, if you had a choice between those two films this summer, I would say go check out The Meg first before seeing Jurassic World. Otherwise, yeah, it's worth your time, but if you waited until it came out on VOD, I wouldn't blame you on that front. So, there you have it. There's my review of The Meg. I appreciate whatever audience I can get, and if you noticed any other connections, let me know in the comments below. I know a lot, but I don't know everything, so please feel free to let me know if I missed anything in the description below. And be sure to look out for my next movie and TV reviews coming up. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. And just remember, there's nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.